Friends, good morning again, and welcome to this first edition of the Multimillionaire Forum of 2024. And there is so much I want to share with you. There's so much of data, there's so much of information. You will be completely amazed. But to begin with, I just want to show you. See, there is this paper, today morning's paper. Every day there's something or the other which is very, very interesting. I just want you to see this. Can you see this? Economy is stays on a fast track, likely to grow 7.3% in FY24. Look at the next news right next to it. 108 cars sold, records. Luxury cars sold. Okay, runway ready, 150 more planes. Look at this side. Look at this piece of the news. What does it say? 41.73. Say almost 42 lakh new accounts, demat accounts open, which means we are at 14 lakh crores of demat accounts. Sorry, 14 crores of demat accounts. That's what it says. That's the kind of pace at which we are moving. See? So let's Jerry put up the presentation. We'll start the presentation. For the ones who are joining us the very first time, Multimillionaire Forum is an endeavor from us. It's an educational endeavor. The idea is to share some information that we collate over the last month with everybody, to share some ideas with you, purely educational. We don't talk about any stock or any fund. We will do that in the later part of the session, the last 20 minutes or so. So that there's something that you want to discuss in that space, we will talk about it. And just sit back, enjoy yourself, and there's going to be a lot of data coming your way. Okay. Now, there's another thing that we have to do, which is, put up a disclaimer that this video is only for educational purposes. There's no buying and selling recommendation, and nothing that we say here should be construed as investment advice. Everyone is encouraged to do their own research before making any investment decisions. We are brokers, distributors of financial products. Please be aware we are not SEBI registered investment advisors. We are registered with SEBI and AMFI as distributors and as equity sub-brokers. And by accessing and using our content on social media, you acknowledge and agree to the above disclaimer. Standard process, we'll have to implement this as we move along. All right, okay. So there is something very interesting that I want to talk to you about. First off, what's happening in India? Before we even go and talk about what's happening in the year 2024, very quickly, let me just recap 2023 for you. What a brilliantly eventful year this was. We saw high interest rates, then we saw news of rate hikes being paused. Okay. We also started seeing global activity happening and a lot of activity happening. There were a lot of bank failures. We saw those news. We saw negative guidance coming from America, sales falling, technology layoffs. We saw SVB, Credit Suisse, etc. These kind of banks going bust. US credit rating got downgraded, which is crazy, right? These are all the bad news. Israel-Hamas war started on 7th of October. That's another bad news. But then on the good side, ChatGPT. I mean, this is the first time everyone, all of us, actually experienced what artificial intelligence is all about. So that's something that we saw. Coming to India, there were a few negatives that happened. Insurance became taxable above a certain level. The smaller policies are still tax-free. The indexation benefit debt mutual funds went away. All the foreign holidays and foreign remittances will now be subject to TCS. That happened. Some of these negative things. Another negative thing was the Adani Hindenburg crisis. The 2000 notes were banned, but then now everything is sort of sorted out. But what were the great things that happened in India? The G20, the grand mega success of G20, it actually put India into the map and into the map as a superpower of the world. And we spoke about such fabulous themes. We spoke about biofuels. We spoke about Global Ethanol Alliance. There was so much of focus on renewable energy. Africa was brought into G20 and made G21, an economic corridor right from India through the Middle East and all the way to Europe. I mean, these are some landmark events. And as we go through the presentation today, you will see how these will actually unfold in the years to come. ONDC was launched, which is actually touted to be the mother of Amazon. It's going to change the whole e-commerce landscape in India. Already there's lots of transactions happening. A great proud moment for us was the Chandrayaan landing on the southern side of the moon, which was another huge achievement for India. We've just been achieving. India growing at a fabulous pace. So many accolades, so much of achievements. Uh, we were all skeptical about what would happen and whether BJP will come into power, whether the Modi government will come into power again in 2024 or not. And some precursor to that was some of the state elections that we won and that the Modi government won. And you saw that in November and December, the stock markets just gave a fabulous performance. They just blew out of proportion. So there's so much that is happening. Super performance of the stock market. What a fabulous year it's been. Just to sort of recap, Nifty did 25% for the year. Let me have my annotations open. So Nifty here at the end of the year closed with 25%. Next Nifty, which is the blue chips, which are not a part of Nifty but may become a part of Nifty in future. The immediate next 50 big companies of India, those grew at about 43%. So that index moved up 43%. The mid cap index, as you can see, moved up almost 50%, and the small cap index moved up 54%. And this is what defines India. We need to look at all these four indices to actually understand what's happening in the Indian stock market, what's happening to our portfolios, because that is what makes all the difference. Because just looking at the Nifty is not alone, and just holding Nifty companies again is not such a great idea. We need to be diversified across mid caps and small caps to really, really take the full advantage of the growth story of the Indian stock market, right? So, what are some of the best ideas? What's happening in our economy? That's all that we're going to talk about. First off, let's start talking about what's happening in terms of growth. Okay, what's happening and what is everybody talking about growth, and how is all this growth going to sort of pan out for us? Okay, in India and in the rest of the world. Okay. Okay. So as you can see here, India, I'm focusing on this part of my screen. This is all a report from IMF, the International Monetary Fund. In 22, it was projected that India would grow at 6.8, 23 projection was 6.4, and in 24, it's going to be 6.7, which means the growth is going to be higher. Okay, that's interesting. Now, amongst all these growth projections of regions, as you can see, nobody is really kind of even close to about 4 or 5%. There are a few 5% here, emerging and developing Asia, but India is like sitting right at the top at 6.7. This is a little bit of a table of this particular table that you see here is again IMF data, global economic projections, and you can see India is pretty much right at the top. So here, this projection is saying 6.3%, this projection is saying 6.7%, and there's a link here. Jhaveri, can you take us to this link? And can you share this thing? Let us show you the world GDP growth here as well. You will be amazed. Okay, can you sort of scroll down for us? Okay, further down. So, I mean, anywhere and everywhere, what is happening is, this is what I wanted to show. So, in the southern part, I mean, here, South Asia, this is where India is. This is yet another projection at 6.7%. And look at 6.7%, we are pretty much the highest. There is nobody growing at anywhere close to even 5%. So you might think that, what's happening in America? America is under recession. Europe is going through a hard time. China is, having their own set of problems. Then how is the Indian stock market moving? The answer is right here in front of you. The answer is here because India on its own is growing at such a phenomenal pace, which is why we are almost, so to say, decoupled from what is happening to the rest of the world. Yes, we are going to get affected. I mean, we export a lot of services. Our IT companies are a lot dependent on America for revenues that come in from the IT services. Pharmaceuticals is also dependent on a lot of parts of the world because we pretty much are like the laboratory of the world. We are exporting generics, we're exporting all sorts of pharmaceutical drugs to the world. And almost 30 to 40% of the income in the pharmaceutical industry also comes from global nations. But that said, there is so much happening in our own backyard and which we are going to explore. So bring me back to the presentation. All right, okay. So let's sort of move further. There's more data. So what's going to happen? Because of this GDP growth, what is going to likely happen in India in the coming year, in the coming calendar year of 2024? We were absolutely amazed. So we just spoke to you. We said that we must look at the different pockets of the stock market. We should just not look at Nifty, right? because Nifty only represents 50 stocks, so the Sensex only represents 30 stocks. I'm going to go slow, but watch this. This is technical trend. See, we saw fundamental data. The whole world says, IMF says, ADB says, global forecasting agencies are all saying that India is going to grow the fastest. Our own Indian estimates are also saying that we are going to grow the fastest, which is all based on fundamental data. This is technical data. Technically, from the chart point of view, what's the vision? What's the outcome? Bank Nifty looks up. Mid cap is looking up. Small cap up. I mean, there is no sector which is looking down. Now, why I have put in some data of 2023 year also is because in 23 and 23 beginning January, these were the predictions that we made. You know, that Bank Nifty is likely to be up, and it was up. Mid cap was likely to be up, it continued to be up. Small cap went down for a few months, and U5 means in the fifth month it started booming, which is in May, it started turning around. And by the time it was December, it did 57%. This is the index only. Okay, PSU banks was up, PSU sector was up. And the same thing, pretty much this time, we don't even see a single down. There is no down prediction only. So, I mean, it is super, super exciting. See, IT is the only area which is looking like a little sideways. The reason it is looking sideways in the charts is because we are obviously dependent, like I said a while back, on a lot of companies are dependent for the revenues in American markets, in the European market. So maybe, till the time there are dark clouds in that part of the world, our IT sector may not shine, but there is enough happening in artificial intelligence on the other. So virtually every sector, subsector is looking super, super, super bullish right now. See, all said and done, if there is something crazy that happens, if another biohazard like COVID comes in, or if another major war outbreak happens, or the wars that are actually going on, the Russia-Ukraine going on, the Hamas and Israel, which is going on. See, when we did our session on wars and markets, you may recall that we said that most of these wars are not wars that just started in the year 23 or 22. They've been going for many, many years. It's like that India, Pakistan, there is something or the other, some, negative action that keeps happening on the borders, and it's like an ongoing thing. And sometimes these things flare up, and other times they remain a little bit muted. But now the Israel Hamas situation has flared up. So now what's the potential risk if the other countries also start joining it? So those are the risks. But otherwise, if those risks don't come into play, then we are all looking super, super. So in 23, now here is another table which we've put up for your benefit, just for you to understand. See, question is, did you make money? And did you make money, and how much money did you make? So if you start looking at the fact, the poorest performer of the market last year was Bank Nifty. Bank Nifty means the HDFC Bank, Kotak banks, the large banks that's what comprises the Bank Nifty index. So the large banks did not perform. FMCGs were also reasonable, 18, 19%. Metals were okay. The Nifty itself, which is the top blue chip companies of the country, moved at about 20%. But the winner of the year was the realty sector. Complete surprise, completely unexpected. I mean, here we had actually made a prediction in 2023 that realty might go down and started moving up in May. But what a way it has moved up. In one of the sessions of the MMF, we also sort of brought to you that how the realty sector is kind of transforming and how Indians are spending. That DLF project, which was launched in Gurgaon, 4 buildings sold in about a day or maybe 2 days, as we've heard news, is completely remarkable. And these are apartments of 8 crores each. So there is a lot of money which is actually chasing the realty sector. So realty was a big surprise. Maybe it'll continue. Maybe the affluence level is increasing in India. There are lots of reasons. We'll see as we move along. But the another amazing area was the public sector enterprises. See, we always thought, what will government companies do? These are sleepy companies, bureaucratic companies. They don't care about profits. They don't care about growth. But the stock market only and only worships profits. If there are profits, the price of the stock goes up. And that's how our mutual fund portfolios benefit. That's how our stock portfolios benefit. So the PSE sector, and with the government, of course, there's a lot of credit that we must give for the last 10 years or so to the government and the policies that they implemented. The PSE sector has actually, from a sleepy sector, it's become like the growth engine of India. So that is why the PSE sector has also sort of done an 80% return for the year. And then the rest of them, as you can see, follow, right? So fundamentally, we are looking fabulous, right? On the charts, we are looking brilliant. Now, there are three things. Let's remember there are three things which fundamentally drive prices higher, and which obviously means the markets move higher and we make profits as a result of the price moving higher in our stock portfolios, in our mutual fund portfolios. And why are the prices moving up? Why is a stock which has moved 100% still a great buy? You see, there are three fundamental things that happen here. Um, let's understand these three things one by one, okay? So first is the order book. Now, what is the order book? Order book is nothing but the pipeline of business that is there. These are the businesses which are likely to come down the way of a company. So it is like if you are a sales organization, then it is your lead pipeline. If it is a manufacturing company, it's your order book. So the larger the order book, it means that this company is likely to do very well in future times because these orders are already in their bag. But it's a slippery area. Just order book on its own doesn't help because the order also has to get executed. And once the order is executed, only then will that company earn the sales revenue. And from that, they will make profit. So, which is why the second part of that circle that you saw, the profit becomes equally important. So, if you don't have a profit making company and you have an order book, it's of no use. You need to have order book and you also need to have that company which is solid and capable of making profits. Now, and the third part on why stock prices move up is the government policy. We have seen examples of huge events like G20 and even other announcements that happen from time to time that the government is supportive of so many sectors: infrastructure, renewable energy, ethanol, power sector, electricity sector. We're seeing that the government policies are all pro business, pro development, and pro upliftment of the whole country. And because of that, where the government focuses, there is a lot of investment that starts happening both from the government sector and the private sector. It's very simple. If you are into business, let's say if you're into business of, let's say, paper, if the government says that we are going to now focus on paper because the demand for paper is X and the production of paper is just 1/5 of X, we need to increase production 5 times. What do you think will happen? All the smart entrepreneurs and all the smart business owners will start investing in paper. The ones who are already into this paper business will, for example, start building more capacity. They will buy more machinery. They will make more investment. They will go to the bank and take more loans to buy more machinery. It's just simple common sense, right? So if the government policy is supportive in a particular sector, the next thing that happens is investment, both from the government and the private sector. The moment the investment happens, these companies will go out and say, hey, we can now, manufacture 500 tons of paper. Until yesterday, we could do 200 tons of paper. I mean, just an example. That's how the government policy is supportive. Okay, so just to sort of recap the whole thing for you, order book on its own. Okay, the next thing is the profit. No, I'm on the presentation. Okay, just a moment. So the order book on one side tells you that these companies are going to progress. Profits is the ability of that company to make profit. So if there is no order book, there can't be profits. Only if there is a large, massive order book, then there will be profits, and the government policy has to support. We are just going to now show you a small little snapshot of some order book data. Okay. And you will see why a company which has already moved 100% is still a fabulous buy. Now, can you show me that Excel, the order book data? Can you make this a little large because this is too small for us to see? Zoom further. No problem. Just zoom. The name of the company is not mentioned here, but what you can see is that this is from sectors like defense, railways, renewable energy, sugar. Sugar basically means ethanol. So company number one, the market cap today, which is, you understand, market cap is nothing but the total value of the company today. All the shares that the company has outstanding multiplied by the current market price gives you the market cap. Means We say that company X is worth 45,000 crores. Okay, that's what this means. Now, this company, which is worth 45,000 crores today, has an order book of 39,000 crores. Can you imagine? A company which has got 18,000 crores market cap has got order book of 21,000. Means it's got more orders than its entire net worth. Imagine. Imagine that scenario. You have, let's say, 100 rupees as your own personal net worth, and here you get an opportunity to transact a business or a job opportunity which is going to be 150 rupees, which is like much larger than your net worth. Now, this order book is not something which is for this year. It could happen for the next 1 year or 2 years or 3 years also. But these are the data which we sort of dug out. This you can just Google. If you want to find out the order book of any company, you can say order book and the name of the company in Google, and you'll get these answers. This is how we sort of found these. So some of these companies, order book 31,000 is the market cap, order book is 20,000. So this is why these companies are moving on. Look at this fellow. 38,000 is the market cap, and the order book that they are sitting on is 65,000. Order book basically also means that somebody who wants to buy your goods and services has given you a purchase order, a letter of intent that we are going to buy these things over the next 1 year or 2 years or 5 years from you. So as on July 23 data, this particular company, which was valued at 38,000, has an order book of 65,000, right? It's absolutely amazing, absolutely astounding. This is the reason why you may feel market बहुत ऊपर चला गया है. I mean, this stock बहुत ऊपर चढ़ गया है. I will not buy the stock now. But look at the order book and your entire perspective will change that maybe we should actually be invested in this company, and maybe all these companies put together is our Indian market put together, and the Indian market is going to go places, it's going to still fly. We are probably in the best periods. I keep saying this again and again. We are probably in the golden age of India's growth. This decade of 2020 to 2030 is going to be something that we will remember for the rest of our lives. It's going to be very, very historic. And there is more data coming in. There's a lot of other things that we've got to share with you. Come, presentation again. Just give us a minute for the screen to change. Are you sharing that? Okay. No. Okay. This is now look at order book. This is coming from the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Okay. This is talking about exports. Look at this. Just read this data. India's exports have soared, escalating from 375 billion in 2011 to 770 billion in 23. Now, watch. Stay with me. From 2011 to 2023, that's 12 years. In a 12-year period, this 375 has become 770 billion, which is almost double, right? But from 23, which is at 770 billion, let me just remove my annotations so that we can focus better. This 770 billion of 2023 is likely to become, look at this growth, 50% by 24, 25, 1,000 billion. We are going to touch 1 trillion exports. And look at this, the estimate by 2030, it says $2 trillion of export. Can you see the speed at which we are growing? This is, again, absolutely, I mean, this had my jaw dropping. It's like unbelievable. 50% growth now, and the next 5 years, you're seeing another 100% growth. So exports, which are standing at today, this also 1,000 billion to 2,000 billion or 2 trillion. Just to give you an estimate, how much is 1 trillion? 1 trillion is 100 lakh crores, by the way, approximately. Very, very roughly. So order book size via exports. So we showed some data of order book of companies that we are invested into, and these are the same companies which are also exporting. So India has also become an export. You will remember again when we spoke about G20, we spoke about the fact that India has also become a global exporter of arms and ammunition. Now, we've started manufacturing our own arms, of course, that's for ourselves, but we've also started exporting that. That is also contributing to this. So now India is also a nation which is exporting arms, ammunition, and that is something that the whole world always wants to buy. Very unfortunate, but in the session of war and markets, we showed that pretty much mankind has been fighting all along. Ever since we were born, we've been fighting. I mean, there is no war which is, or there has been no period which has been without a war. Wars have gone continuously, sometimes quietly, and sometimes they flare up. But wars have been steady, which means the business of selling arms and ammunition, unfortunately, doesn't go away. But then, if we are manufacturing, well, there is a little bit of a implicit benefit there for us. Next. Sorry. Yes. Okay. Okay. You can do that. Go and take us there. Or you can just go next. Okay. Just a minute. We are just changing slide. No, just stay at the presentation and take me to the next one. What happened? Okay. So when we were putting all this data together, we didn't know which side to look at. So we didn't know. Normally what happens is the common sense tells us that, okay, the markets go up so much, the next thing that's going to happen is the market's going to fall. So anyway, this is just to summarize for you again. Why all this is happening. See, private consumption. India, of course, by the way, in 2023, we achieved another milestone, and which is we are now the largest population on the planet. So, and we are the largest population, and we are the youngest population, by the way, mind you. So with the youngest population, there is another massive benefit that happens is everybody wants to buy things. There is another little piece of data. This has happened in China in the 90s. It's happened in Japan also in the 80s. So there is a certain level of what is known as per capita of GDP. Okay. Now, this is a very complex economic term, but I'll try and make it very simple for you. If 10 people are there in a room and we put you on one side, and let's say on the other side, you are just going to a Chroma store and buying an iPhone. Okay. In both the cases, you have borrowed money. Now, you may not be paying interest. You may be in a zero interest scheme. That's on one side. On the housing, you're of course paying some sort of an interest. But think about it. You borrowed that money. You're going to pay interest to the bank. The bank is profitable. That money, you will give it to the developer. So many people get employment. So many people get income. So many industries benefit. Steel, cement, sanitary ware. All of these things start growing. The whole country starts moving. And as a result of which, Indian population on its own, mind you, on its own, we have already reached $4 trillion. And IMF says, our International Monetary Fund says we might become third largest by 27, and third largest by 27, and by 27 we might even touch $5 trillion economy. And a while ago in 22 November, we did a session where we said that the 5 trillion might happen by 2030. Today, the government is coming front foot and saying, we will do it by 27. Just imagine. And by 2047 or 2050, we might even become a developed country. Imagine. India will be a country where the whole world today the whole world is calling young Indian population, come take a job in our country, come and live in our country. We'll even give you money to move into our country. The reverse will start happening. They will start coming to India looking for jobs. Imagine. Inflation target at 4%, which is so much more controlled. Another very, very important piece of data. What happens when inflation rises? When inflation rises, things become expensive. Why does inflation rise? Think about it. Very, very obvious. We are a oil dependent economy. We need to import our oil. Because we need to import our oil, if the price of oil goes up, automatically inflation goes up, to make it very simple. Okay. But oil is stable. Inflation target says the RBI governor is going to be 4% for 2024. And if that actually happens, what will happen is the repo rate will go down. Repo rate is basically the rate at which banks borrow from the RBI. Repo rate will go down. If the repo rate goes down, the cost of money goes down. What happens? Economy flies up. See? Then there are things like China +1 and Europe +1 policy, because there are already difficult times that these countries are facing, which is why countries like India. So even if we start doing 50% of the manufacturing that China does, it will be humongous. Even if we achieve 60, 70% of the infrastructure that some of the other developed countries have, we will be, breaking the roof in terms of growth. So, so many reasons why there is growth happening. Right. Let's, for example, now start looking at some of the sectors which are going to benefit the most. Okay. PSU banks. We already saw public sector enterprises a while ago. I showed you a slide where we sort of saw 80% growth in this. The focus is still on profits. We have done a lot of work in this. NPAs have reduced, collection focus has happened. PSU banks are creating record profits after profits, and which is why you are seeing so much of growth in all, not only PSU banks, but public sector enterprises also. Which is why this is a very, very interesting area of focus. And this is where I think 2024, we will also focus. We recommend, we suggest that we should focus in this area to make profits. Okay, railways. Now, think about this. When the British left India, uh, this is unconfirmed, but I was just having a conversation with somebody who's very well read. And he said that when the British left India, approximately the rail network was something like about 50,000 kilometers. And over the last so many years, we've added another 20 or 1,000 kilometers to that. We aim to double that. We aim to double that over the next decade. So think about the number of trains that are being introduced. I mean, this is absolutely news. We know there are 3,000 new Vande Bharat trains that are going to come in. There is there is so much of doubling of the network which is going to happening. There are more lines which are being laid. There are high speed trains that are being laid. There are hyper loops that are being created. Maybe you'll travel Mumbai Lonavala in 15-20 minutes. Maybe you'll do Mumbai Pune in about maybe 30 or minutes or maybe 45 minutes. I don't know what the hyperloop technology is and how fast that will work, but conversation is already on. And uh, let's also sort of hope that this government gets the third term. If they do, then we will see a lot of these things actually coming to fruition. So we will see all these developments actually coming to life. The other areas, I mean, it's defense. Uh, Once upon a time, we were an economy who used to basically import and buy all the arms and ammunition, right? Because we didn't have any capability to make one. Now, with Russia, Ukraine already going on, and Russia was, by the way, our biggest partners to supply, okay? Israel, a tiny little country, is on the global platform. Why? Because they are like one of the best suppliers of arms and ammunition in the whole world. So what is the Atmanirbhar philosophy playing out and how is it playing out in defense? So the government thinks that, enough of we depending on Russia, enough of depending on other people to buy our arms and ammunitions and to safeguard our borders. Let's sort of start manufacturing all this ourselves. So there are so many companies in this space. Now, suddenly, think about it again. Think about that circle that we showed you. Order book, profit, and government policies. The government policy says we need to become Atmanirbhar in defense. So if we have to become Atmanirbhar in defense, all our companies have to start manufacturing right from missiles to aeroplanes to guidance systems. And not only that, we are also exporting, and exports is also going to be 35,000 crores, as you can see, by 2025. Again, amazing, right? The next area, I mean, power and infrastructure, renewable energy. Today India in G20 said that we are going to focus so much on renewable power that in the next 10 to 15 years, almost half of whatever India consumes is going to come from renewable energy. Now, think about that. Now, that is a sentence, but what does that sentence mean? We need to have an installed capacity of 500 gigawatts of power, because India, by the way, is the third largest consumer of power in the world. Okay. And having said that, India, because of its terrain, because of its geography, we can have everything that we want. If we want to have thermal generation of electricity, we can do that. If we want wind power, we can have that. So we can install all these facilities ourselves and generate our own renewable power. And the question of exporting that is out of the question, because we are going to consume all that renewable ourselves. But out of that 500 gigawatt power requirement, where are we today? We are at 175 approximately, पौने 200 के आसपास. So which means almost we are going to triple our renewable capacity. So think about all the companies that operate in the renewable space. And now here it's a clear focus, not only focus, announced to the whole world also that this is how it's going to be. So which means renewable energy is a sector which is going to get tripled. Electrification, we are almost sort of reaching a level where the whole of India is going to be electrified. There was a time where it was such a big deal to have light into some village in some rural part of the country, but today electrification is just spreading uh, all across, and it's spreading even more. So there will be a point in the next 5 to 10 years, India will be completely electrified, and we will be using renewable power into this. Huge difference. That's power and infrastructure for you. Okay. Consumables. I mean, we just mentioned that private consumption is going up, and everybody wants to buy, right from better, different kind of jewelry to footwear to apparel to textiles, experiences, all of that. And these two are kind of interlinked because young population wanting to spend more, borrowing more, and buying all these goods and services automatically, starts moving the whole engine for growth. So there is so much that we have to look forward to.